17 Horror Street Ories. It was a quiet September night in Oregon, just past 9 p.m. when we arrived at the edge of Hollow Pine Lake. The fog hung low, curling around the trees like it had secrets to keep. That's when we first saw him standing across the water, a tall man in a dark coat and a mask stretched into a twisted grin. Leah, the kind of woman who turned heads even without trying, was the first to spot him. She was 23, confident, sharp-eyed, with short dark hair tucked behind one ear. I came with her and my cousin Darren, the planner of our group. Mia tagged along too, more curious than brave. We were there to explore an abandoned cabin rumored to be haunted by more than just stories. The conflict began when we found strange carvings along the cabin, walls runes, symbols, all circling back to one name we didn't recognize. That night, the man appeared again. This time, closer. Leah, checking the back shed alone, saw him watching her through a broken window. She froze. He didn't move, just stared. Then he tilted his head and grinned wider. Darren called out and the moment broke, but Leah was never the same after that. We tried to leave the next day, but the car wouldn't start. Phones were dead. The forest felt smaller, closer. That night, Leah was taken. She screamed from the hallway, and we found her cornered, the masked man just inches from her. He didn't touch her. He only whispered something none of us could hear, then vanished. Tension cracked between us. Mia blamed Darren for bringing us here. Darren insisted we finish what we started. Leah barely spoke. The cabin seemed alive, doors opening to different rooms than before. The man came again, but never the same way twice. Sometimes in reflections, sometimes in dreams. Near the end, we found a journal under the floorboards. It spoke of a ritual, of a presence trapped in the woods, always seeking a host. That night, Leah stood near the lake again, drawn by something. We begged her to come back. She turned slowly, smiling a little too wide. Her voice wasn't quite her own. The last thing I remember was Darren shouting her name as the fog swallowed them both. The boat drifted back empty, and I've never been able to forget the sound of that laugh. 2 weeks later, we checked into a rundown motel on the edge of Red Pine, a forgotten town deep in northern Idaho. It was late October. Freezing rain tapped on the windows like fingers trying to get in. And across the parking lot, beneath a broken streetlight, the man in the dark coat stood silently, staring at our room. Mia was the first to see him that night, through a crack in the curtains. She whispered for us to look, but by the time we rushed to the window, he was gone. No sound, no footsteps. Just mist rising from the asphalt. Darren locked the door, but it didn't feel like enough. Leah hadn't spoken much since Hollow Pine. Now she wouldn't sleep unless the light stayed on. We were supposed to be passing through, heading south, but the car failed again. The motel owner said the phone lines were down, same with the internet. He spoke without blinking, like he was used to guests going missing. That night, Leah wandered into room 6, the one room left unlocked. She said she felt something calling her. Inside, mirrors covered the walls. No furniture, no light, just mirrors. I followed her in, but she was gone. Only her reflection remained, smiling at me in a way she wasn't capable of anymore. Suddenly, the man appeared in the glass, standing behind Leah's reflection. Not moving, not blinking, just watching. When I turned, the room was empty. I grabbed Leah's arm from the hallway, pulled her out. She didn't remember going in. Her hands were ice. None of us moved it. The motel owner said nothing, just handed us a different room key and walked away. Room 6. We knew it was a trap, but we had no choice. The weather turned, roads out were flooded, and then the dreams began. Mia dreamed of being dragged through mirrors. Darren dreamed of drowning in fog. Leah didn't sleep. I dreamed of the man's grin, closer every time. By the third night, Leah started speaking in whispers, words that didn't sound like English. Her eyes no longer met ours. Darren tried confronting her, begging her to fight whatever had touched her. But Leah just smiled, head tilted, exactly like the man. Later, we found a photo in the motel's office, black and white, dated 1962, a young couple, smiling at the front door. Behind them, in the corner of the frame, stood a tall figure in a coat and mask. Same grin, same eyes, same fog. Mia decided to leave on foot. She didn't get far. We found her an hour later, standing in the middle of the road, staring into the forest. The man stood just behind her, his hand nearly touching her shoulder. We screamed her name, but she didn't turn. Then, he vanished. She collapsed. She couldn't explain what happened, only that she heard someone whispering her name over and over, promising to show her everything. We carried her back inside. That night, we made a plan. Leave room 6 locked, avoid mirrors, stay awake. But the motel didn't care. The layout began shifting, hallways bent in impossible angles. Mirrors appeared on doors. Leah disappeared again, and this time we found her in the basement, standing before a massive wall of broken glass. The man was there too, reflected in every shard. He stepped from one pane to another, like he belonged inside them. Darren shouted, threw a chair through the mirrors, but it only splintered and reformed. Leah reached out toward him. He reached back. We pulled her away, but something had changed. Leah's reflection didn't move with her anymore. It stayed behind, watching us, lips curled upward. The climax came the following night. Room 6's door swung open on its own. Inside, nothing but mirrors again. The man waited in the center, hands at his sides, expression unreadable under the mask. Darren went in first, tried to speak to him, asked what he wanted. The man only tilted his head and laughed at a low, echoing sound that didn't match the size of the room. Suddenly, mirrors cracked, one by one, reflections splitting and shifting. We couldn't tell which was real. Leah stepped forward. Not the Leah we knew. She spoke in 2 voices, one layered beneath her own. She said we'd brought him here, that we'd looked too long into places not meant to be seen. The man put a hand on her shoulder. She smiled. The room exploded in cold. Lights flickered and went out. When they came back on, Leah was gone. Darren and Mia were bleeding from their ears. Shaking. I stood alone in front of the last mirror. My reflection looked back at me, but its grin didn't match mine. Behind it, he stood still, watching, waiting. I blinked, and I swear he blinked too. The 3rd of November, just outside Stillwater, Minnesota. Heavy fog covered the 2-lane highway like a curtain of smoke, hiding everything beyond the road's edge. As the car slowed near an old wooden bridge, the man in the dark coat stepped into the headlights, grinning beneath the mask. Mia hit the brakes hard, heart pounding. He didn't move, just stood there. Darren opened his door to shout, but by the time he looked again, the figure was gone. No sound, just fog folding in over itself. That bridge wasn't on any map. Leah whispered that she'd seen it before in dreams. We didn't want to cross, but there was no other way. Roads behind us had vanished. GPS failed. The trees pressed close like walls. The bridge groaned as we passed over, and halfway across we saw him again, standing at the far end. Not moving. Always watching. That night, we found shelter in a nearby cabin. Leah was shaking, her eyes blank. Darren tried to calm her down, but she screamed when she saw her own reflection in the window, said it wasn't hers, that the man was inside her now, whispering. Mia lit candles to keep shadows back. I stayed near the front door, listening for movement. Around midnight, the front door creaked open by itself. A gust of wind blew out all but one candle. We saw him then, through the window standing near the trees, mask tilted, head low. Behind him, a girl. Blonde hair. Barefoot. She looked like Leah, but older. She raised her hand, palm stained with ash. Leah collapsed. Mia held her as she convulsed. Her voice shifted again, 2 tones in one mouth. She muttered names none of us knew. Darren shouted, told the man to come out. No answer. Only the sound of creaking wood from the bridge behind us, like something heavy crossing it slowly. The next morning, Darren was gone. His bed was empty, but the covers untouched. We found his boots at the edge of the creek, standing upright, as if he'd stepped out of them. No footprints in the mud, no sign of struggle, just a smear of condensation on the cabin window, shaped like a hand pressed from outside. We split up to search, against our better judgment. I took the creek path, Mia headed for the bridge. Leah wandered into the trees, humming a song that made no sense. Fog rolled in again. Thicker now. The temperature dropped sharply. The birds stopped singing. On the far side of the bridge, Mia saw him again, closer this time, arms out like welcoming an old friend. Behind him, a dark shape moved, shifting, pulsing, like something growing out of the mist. Mia turned to run, but the wood beneath her cracked. 1 foot dropped through. She screamed, clinging to the edge. He stood just a few feet away, staring. Didn't move. Didn't help. Just watched as she clawed her way back up. When she looked back, he was gone. But her jacket smelled of smoke. Her hair had turned slightly gray. I found Leah near the creek, kneeling before a reflection in the water, not hers. It blinked when she didn't. She spoke to it softly, called it by a name we didn't know. I pulled her away. Her eyes were bleeding from the corners, but she smiled, said he had shown her the other side. Back in the cabin, we tried to leave, packed quickly. But outside, the car was buried in frost, windows fogged from the inside. A single message written in the glass. 1 word. Stay. No footprints. No signs of how it was written. Leah wouldn't leave. She said it was pointless, that he was already inside all of us, that he'd been following since the motel. Mia cried. I grabbed Leah's arm. She resisted, then froze. Her eyes rolled back. Her mouth opened, and from it came his laugh. Not her voice, not human, cold, hollow. It echoed off the walls. The lights flickered, the shadows grew longer. Then the door slammed shut, and the temperature dropped again. Mia screamed, backed into the wall. Behind her, in the reflection of the cabinet glass, he stood. Leah turned to the mirror, touched it, and disappeared. Gone. Mia ran to the door, locked. I stared into the mirror. His mask cracked just slightly. I saw teeth beneath, or something like teeth. He raised 1 hand. So did my reflection, but I hadn't moved. The cabin began to distort, angles bending, corners stretching. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, I was alone. Mia too had vanished. Only a whisper in the air remained. The bridge creaked again. The fog parted for a moment, and there he stood, arms folded, alone.